the F-files. The answer is out there.
The Microsoft Fabric Certification Podcast with Kevin and Frank.
Episode 0. Welcome to the F-files.
I have a question. What are you guys doing here?
Hello, Kevin, and happy Halloween. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Frank. Yourself?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. I'm doing well as well. So we got a call. Did you hear the call? A lady was calling and she was asking, what are we doing here? So, Kevin, what are we doing here?
Something to do with Fabric, apparently.
Yes.
Microsoft Fabric, we should be clear for everybody. Obviously,
yes.
I'm kind of branding the logo for it at this moment in time. So what we've actually been asked to do is actually help solve some of the mysteries surrounding the skills measured for Fabric certifications.
Exactly. What we want to do is we want to pick every episode. We will pick one of these questions, and the questions will be the questions of the skill measured. We will not at all discuss any certification questions or something like this. We will only discuss these questions, and what we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about them. We want to talk about the questions, why a certain answer might be correct, why a certain answer might not be correct. And what we want to do on the way is that we also want to discuss a little bit about how different things in Fabric work.
Yeah.
So maybe I think because not everyone knows who is Kevin and who is Frank, so maybe we should introduce ourselves as well, right? As hosts of this show. And probably Kevin, please start. Who is Kevin?
Kevin is somebody who's worked with the Microsoft Data Platform for quite some time now. Obviously, a lot of people know me. I've worked in various sectors, MVP, MCT, etc., etc. I help solve a lot of problems as of late for the Microsoft Fabric community. And that is essentially me in a nutshell, Frank. And what about yourself?
Okay. So, yeah, well, my name is Frank Geisler, and here in Germany, I run a Microsoft consulting company. So we do Microsoft consulting with data platform, stuff like this. As Kevin, I'm also a long-term member of the data community. I think even over 20 years now. I was one of the founders of the German data community. And as you might know, I'm from Germany. And so I'm in a long-term MVP and a long-term MCT as well. That's more or less about me in a nutshell. Kevin, as we're talking now, shall we introduce to our listeners and to our viewers how we came up with this idea?
Sure. Well, obviously the pair of us, Frank, have been helping people for many years learn stuff with the Microsoft Data Platform. And the pair of us got together to actually help various members of the community with learning about Microsoft Fabric certifications, alongside other great members of the community who've also been willing to share their knowledge and help others gain the certifications as well. So from the work that us two have been doing, we spoke and we met up a bit further afterwards, and we bounced some ideas of each other. And this, everybody, is how we came up with the F-files. So, of course, the F stands for Fabric.
So, Kevin, can you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about why the F-files and why this UFO and extraterrestrial theme?
Sure, yeah. So, basically, a lot of people are learning at the moment to do Microsoft Fabric certifications, and a lot of people are on their Microsoft Fabric journey as well. And for a lot of them, there is a lot of mystery involved and some myths. So we thought, well, what title could we come up with which aligns with mystery and myths and some things feeling a bit alien to people? After bouncing around some ideas, the pair of us came up with the F-files.
Exactly. Okay. So, so what will we expect in the next episodes, or what are we going to do?
Well, of course, we are going to be very, very professional about what we will be covering over the next episodes.
Yes.
And other things that we will actually be covering on a more serious note actually includes various topics relating to the DP700 cert exam at this moment in time, which is the exam you need to take to gain the Microsoft Fabric data engineering certification. So people can expect topics relating to that, like deployment pipelines, medallion architecture, etc.
Very cool, very cool. And before we deep dive into all these technical topics, maybe what we could do as well, because this is the first episode, and after we introduced ourselves, after we introduced why we do the F files, maybe what we can talk about a little bit for people who might not know. Let's talk a little bit about Microsoft certifications, what they are, how they work, and stuff like this. So, question is, Kevin, why should I get certified?
Well, there are various reasons why you'd want to get certified, especially as far as Microsoft certifications are concerned, to be honest. It could well be that you want to formalize your knowledge in a certain area. In this case, it would be the Microsoft Fabric data engineering skills. It could be a requirement for your job as well to actually gain your certifications, or maybe you just want to future-proof your career and learn more about Fabric and get these certifications, so in the future you will end up working with Microsoft Fabric more.
No, very cool. And maybe one more thing is, or one more question that probably some of our listeners and viewers might have, is how does such a certification work? So how do I think about, if I never did a certification, so how does this work actually? So what do I have to do? Am I going to the Netherlands, and you will ask me stuff, and then I will answer you, and then I get my certification?
So the typical process if you're going for an exam, and this is typical, it can vary by person, you would actually find out what topics are required for the exam in question. You would then go off and study on those topics and fill in any gaps on stuff you don't know about, which I suspect is why a lot of you will be listening to us talk about various topics. And then once you've done your studying by different means, you'll go and sit the exam somewhere, typically either at home or doing it online, or in a test center. And then if you pass the exam, you gain the certification. Okay,
very cool. And so if I'm at the test center, for example, how does it work? So is it that there will be like some, I don't know, like some teacher, some MCT or something asking me something, or how does it work? I don't know.
So I must confess, I haven't been in an in-person center now since before lockdown, but it used to be the case at least that you go in, basically, you sit down on a computer and you go through the exam. So basically the experience in a test center, taking the exam, will be similar-ish to doing it at home. Obviously it'd be slightly different because there's a test center, so there'd be more other people watching your activities there, etc. Whereas if you do it at home, then you would actually be proctored by somebody watching you do the exam through your webcam.
So I've been in a test center. Last time I've been in a test center was at Build in Seattle in May, and yeah, what you said is right. So the thing is, what you have to do is, if you go to the test center, first of all, you have to identify yourself. And usually this is done by two IDs. Like, for example, you will show your personal ID and you will show your driver's license, right? And then the next thing is that you have to give all of your electronic devices, like, for example, smartwatches, mobile phones, all of this you have to pass to the people at the test center. They will just store it in a box for you, and then you will be in this test center environment where you get, as you said, where you get a PC, and on this PC there will be the test. But thinking about the test, how does this look like? So how is the test done? So will I be presented the Fabric portal and then I have to click something and I get a task, or how do I think about this? How will this work?
Obviously, we can't go into too many details for obvious reasons, but let's just say if you do the practice assessments that are available on the exam sites, then obviously that will get you prepared for what kind of things to expect when you go to take the exam.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fully like for like, of course, because the idea of the practice assessments is to get you in the mindset for doing the exams in question.
Yeah.
But things can vary when you do them.
Okay. So, and regarding the question, so as said, and this is something we will never do at this channel, is we will not discuss exam questions, right? But maybe let's talk a little bit about the types of exam questions. So what? So how should I think about? Is there like, it's a question and then I will have a big text box where I can just put in whatever my thoughts are to this questions, or what kind of questions are we expecting?
Now, typically the exams tend to be a combination of multiple choice and case study related questions.
Okay.
So that's what you will
Okay.
typically be presented with. Of course, it can vary, but that's the main kind of format you should expect.
And this is exactly what we also will talk about when we talk about the several questions, because they will be like multiple choice questions. And what we will do in this podcast is we will talk about so usually you will get something like, for example, 4 to 6 answers, right? And we will talk about why is answer A and why is answer B right and why are the other answers not right, right? Okay, thank you very much. So, any more thoughts on the exam? So, how should I prepare? What should I do on the day of the exam?
I think the question should be, what should you do before the day of the exam, to be honest with you? Because as we mentioned,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, okay.
like I mentioned
Okay.
earlier, you should study for your mediums of choice. And then when you go to take the exam, whether it's at a test center or at home, just make sure you're confident enough to actually go and do the exam, and make sure you've done things like do the practice assessments on the Microsoft exam page, for example, beforehand a few times to make sure that you're up to speed on the common related questions you may be expected to have knowledge about for the exam. And then, of course, the most important thing when you're going to take the exam, everybody, and this goes for all of us, applies to me, this applies to Frank, this applies for everybody listening to this podcast. This one single, very, very important tip: answer as many questions as you can.
And this is a good one. And so what you could do during the test is you can just mark questions for review. So if you don't know the answer right now, right, don't stick too long with every question, because the time you have is limited, right? And if you run through all the questions first and then every question you don't know, just mark as review, go to the next question. So in this case, you can answer more questions than if you stay too long on one question and then you run out of time. And the other thing is, even if you don't know, and this might be a tip for me, even if you don't know, just click anything, because there might be a chance that the chance is 1 to 4, right, that you have the right answer. And so even if you don't know, don't finish the exam without any question non-answered.
We will give tips during the podcast anyway, won't we, for how to approach some of the questions as well. But for some of the answers, we will share some additional insights based on our industry experience. And also we will be providing you useful tips along the way with these questions, folks, like the process of elimination for some answers.
Exactly. This is a very good tactics to get through the answers. And the other question is, Kevin, because I never did an exam. No, it's not true. I did many of the exams, but maybe our listeners would like to know, okay, when will I pass? So do I have to answer all of the questions that are thrown at me? Do I have to answer them all correctly? And then I pass. How does it work?
You have to score a certain amount to be able to pass and gain the certification.
Okay.
You don't have to get all of the questions correct. Of course,
Okay.
you're going to clearly be in a better position to pass the exam if you do study with the aim of answering as many questions as possible.
Sure.
It's the same with any exam that you do in life.
That's true. Usually, depending on the exam you take, usually the amount of questions you have to answer is around 70%, right? Somehow it depends on the different exams, right? But this is something where you can think of. So half of the question is not enough. So you have at least to answer 70%, right? And maybe one more question on this, Kevin. So how long does it take? So is it a whole day, or how much time do I have?
I think currently the exam itself is you get 100 minutes to do the exam. If you have neurodiverse requirements, you can apply, and you have to apply in advance here, folks, for an additional 30 minutes for the exam as well. So that's something I want to get across to everybody. Another key point I will highlight as well relating to the exam is that you do kind of, and I will say kind of here, get access to a kind of version of Microsoft Learn during the exam.
Yes.
However, me and Frank both recommend to try and have as much knowledge before the exam as possible, and that's why we're doing this podcast for you all now anyway. So when you actually go to take the exam, hopefully, if you watch our podcasts, you will remember certain points when you go to take the exam.
Exactly. So because of this limited time, which, as you said, I think is 100 minutes or something like this, there is no chance that you will search in Microsoft Learn for all of the answers. This will just not work. Right?
Yeah, it will not work. And that's a key point, of course, for anybody who's first-time exam taker. These exams are not open book. Yes, you get access to a version of Learn, but it's not like you can go off and search on Google or something during these exams. It's a set format. It's highly regulated, so be aware of that.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is answer most of the questions by heart, right? And if you are in doubt on one question where it's like, okay, I don't know exactly about how many CUs some capacity has or something like this, right? Where it's only something in real life you would look up in the internet anyway, right? In this cases, to be 100% sure, you can use this, but in most of the cases, you should really know about this. And maybe one more question on the exam is so I have this 100 minutes to do the exam. So approximately, just as a rule of thumb, how many questions do I have to answer? Do I have to answer 10? Do I have to answer 100? Do I have to answer 1,000 questions? So how many questions?
Usually when you go after the start the exam, they do state at the start of the exam how many questions are typically involved for you for each area. But just pay attention to the number of questions and the potential for any additional things that appear in the exam.
Probably this is something I would like to talk about a little bit. And if you do these exams, I can give you two advice here. So first of all, one of the advices would be, if you never ever have taken a Microsoft certification exam, maybe it would be a good idea to do one of the easy ones first. So there are some which have a number like 900 at the end, AI 900, AZ 900, which are basic exams, right? So the knowledge that will be tested there is not so deep. So usually you should be able to answer all of the questions. But what you can do then is you can get accustomed to how a certification test runs, right? How you log into the machine, how you answer the questions, all of this mechanics, because then you don't have this two challenges. One challenge is to get used to the mechanics, and the other challenge is to answer deeply technical questions, right? This is one advice I can give. And the other advice I can give you as well is, as said, I'm from Germany, so there are tests you can do in different languages, so probably in German as well. So one of my big recommendations is, if you can, then I would rather suggest do the test in English, right? The certification exam, because it could be, and it happened to me, that there might be some translation errors in the German version. So if you're okay with English, do it in English.
It's a good piece of advice, sir.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so I think this is the introduction of our podcast and why we do this, and hopefully we will have much fun learning along the way, right? So, any last words, Kevin?
I think from my side, it's just hope you'll start listening to the rest of the podcast so that you'll hear our interesting take on some of the practice questions, where we will shed some insights for you. And like I mentioned earlier, some industry knowledge will be shared along the way as well once we cover these topics.
Yes.
So yeah, you all have a lot to look forward to, a lot of knowledge to soak up, and whether you apply those to do and take the exams, or whether you're going to apply those in the real world, either is good.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm looking very much forward to discuss all of these different questions with you, Kevin, and to share our insights on this. So, well, I think for today, or at least for this episode, this is it. And so bye for now, right? And always remember, the answer is out there.
Yeah. Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.